Hi everyone, and you're very welcome to this discussion as part of the SciFest National Final. My name is Claire O'Connell and it's my absolute pleasure today to be talking to some of the alumni of SciFest. So these are students who took part in SciFest fairly recently and have gone on to do wonderful things since. So and we're interested in talking to them because they will have loads of advice for you about what it's like to take part in SciFest and what it can mean for you afterwards as well. So I think maybe if we just go around the Zoom room and introduce everybody, we have Aaron Hannon, Caolann Brady, Omar Salam and Ruth Madden. So maybe Aaron, maybe if we can start with you. You were the overall winner of SciFest 2017 and you represented Ireland and won a first place category award in embedded systems at Intel ISEF in 2018. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you're currently a research fellow in NUIG Galway, and you've been very busy since you won all those prizes. You are the co-founder of Lily Devices, and you're looking at a new way to prevent hair loss in chemotherapy. And in 2020, Junior Chamber Ireland honoured you as one of the 10 outstanding young persons in the world in the category of medical innovation. So Aaron, can you remind us a little bit what your project was about in SciFest and what you've been doing since?
Yeah, sure. So thanks very much for the intro, Claire. And it's really nice to be part of this panel and joined by some really amazing young people. So really honored to be part of it. So my project in SciFest was called Enable Arm. And it was a device to help people with limited hand dexterity, so suffering from paralysis, post-stroke or post-spinal cord injury, to be able to do basic personal care tasks for themselves. And the first thing that I focused on was shaving. And it was inspired by my granddad, who had post-stroke paralysis for most of his life that I knew him for. That kind of, I guess, defined his life. And he wasn't able to do those basic tasks for himself. And kind of being a proud West of Ireland man, one of the things that really bothered him was not being able to shave. And, you know, we would always have to do that for him. And it was definitely something that really zapped his self-confidence. So I guess that really inspired the kind of creator inside me to try and do something about it. And so using some CAD software and a 3D printer that we bought at home, I was able to develop a shaving device that was voice controlled through an app, and then had motors that were controlling it through an Arduino to provide a fully automatic shave for somebody that had limited dexterity. So I guess the device to put them in control of their own personal care was really the plan behind Enable Arm. And it was a really amazing project to be part of. I got to speak to so many wonderful people along the way, having worked with Spinal Injuries Ireland and the Cree Heart and Stroke Charity, and really getting out to, I guess, test the product with users and then understand, you know, how it could potentially impact their life. And I guess the Enable Arm journey, oh, my headphones actually gone there, so I'm going to leave those off.
That's okay.
So the Enable Arm journey, I guess, really started with SciFest, and I think a lot of times people can see their SciFest project as the culmination of their work. But for me, I think the SciFest project was really the genesis of something. So after finishing SciFest, I went obviously to ISEF, had the opportunity to represent Ireland there, which was, again, like a really amazing experience to see so many wonderful projects from all around the world. But after ISEF, I came home and I went to college in Trinity College in Dublin, and heard about the Launchbox Accelerator program there. And I thought, well, you know, I've got an idea for a medical device and I think I wanted to try and commercialize that. So that kind of started my, I guess, journey into startups, and I ended up getting €10,000 in funding for Enable Arm to start it full time over the summer in Trinity. Built a team with 3 other students around me, all working full time on the project. And then I eventually decided to actually leave college to go and pursue it full time. And I guess from there, I started working with NUIG Galway and started moving into the field of commercializing medical devices. So SciFest was really the start of all of that.
Brilliant. So congratulations, Aaron. That's a fantastic development from your project. I remember the demo at the national final of yours. It was very, very eye-catching. It's a great project and wonderful to see what's evolved from it as well. So Caolann, maybe we go to you now. You were the overall winner of SciFest 2016, and you went on to win a second place category award in Biomedical and Health Sciences in Intel ISEF in 2017 in Los Angeles that time. And you're now studying science at Trinity College Dublin. So a bit like Aaron, can you remind us of what your project was about and tell us what studying science is like now?
Of course, Claire, thank you very much. So yeah, 2016, I did a project that was actually around natural treatments for asthma. So as an asthma sufferer, I was actually quite bad probably in the earlier stages of my life. And there's always that kind of fear that if you were to start suffering from an asthma attack or even just a slight wheeze and you didn't have your inhaler on you, that was a serious problem. You'd get more panicked, which would actually exacerbate the situation. So I wanted to see if there was any way of, I suppose, relieving that suffering from the lack of breathing, but through natural means that you didn't need to necessarily always have your inhaler on you. So I had looked into a few things. I think as a fifth year at the time, I was a bit bombarded with biological research, which when you're in secondary school, it's very complex and it's very hard to kind of pinpoint how to get your head around even just the minor ideas. So I found a very simple paper that was about humming and that actually helps you improve your nasal breathing. So it actually cleared your passages in your nose. And I kind of took on that concept then about, I suppose, humming and seeing if that could also apply to improving your breathing kind of in your lower respiratory tract, so in your lungs. So I think it started off on a minor scale. I kind of took people within my own school and neighborhood, and there was probably around 50 or 60 people that I had tested. But obviously, as I progressed in the SciFest competition, it kind of was a little boost each time, and I was like, I'm going to widen my sample size. So in the end, I think I tested over about 400 people, and it was a very simple test. It kind of, once again, was a step into the world of biological research, but had consulted with consultants and the asthma research in Ireland, and kind of the most simple and effective way of just testing improvement in lung function was through a peak flow meter, which I'm sure most people are probably aware of. So you just exhale as hard as you can into like a little device, and then the dial moves up and tells you how strong that exhale was. So that was my simple measurement just before and after the humming. And I found that there was an improvement across asthmatics, non-asthmatics, the old, the young, male, female. So it was quite an interesting finding. As I said, once again, being a secondary school student, it's hard to kind of tie in a lot of the theory surrounding that, but I obviously did a relatively good job at that age, and it was very exciting then to go on, as Aaron said, to ISEF and kind of reaching out and speaking to judges and other people that are highly involved in research. That was so exciting, and yeah, it was an honour to be part of, but definitely was a great stepping stone for me just from an experimental design point of view, biological research in general. It was fascinating. So that, I suppose, was good stepping stone, as I said, to science and Trinity. So when I started in science, it was still a generic kind of entry point. So I studied everything from physics to biology, which physics was totally out of my comfort zone, but at least I knew that after the first year and put that to one side. And I now specialise in molecular medicine. So my current final year project is actually on COVID. I'm looking at the genetic susceptibility to COVID. There's a bit far removed from, I suppose, asthma, but even still, it's all along the immunology lines, and I'm hoping to kind of continue that way in the future. So yeah, definitely was such a great stepping stone, just opening your eyes to the scientific community and contributing to research. It was definitely such a great stepping stone, and I'm enjoying science so much at the minute.
That's fantastic, Caolann. Well done. And I know you were saying like it's such a simple idea to think of humming, but you know, so much of what we look at does come back to simplicity, but looking at it in a very scientifically rigorous way, and that's obviously what got you the big prize at SciFest, and others as well. So I'm delighted to hear that you're continuing the scientific studies. Omar, you have been in the SciFest national final a couple of times. You were selected in 2016 and in 2017, and you won the Thea Award in 2017, and now you're studying aerospace engineering at Queen's University Belfast, which sounds very exciting. So can you tell us about that project in 2017? Again, I recall seeing it at the final, but tell us more about what that was and what you're studying now.
Yeah, exactly. So I've just always been really interested in aviation. And at the time, it was at fifth year, so I just wanted to do a project in aviation. So I just looked at problems in the area, and one of the big things was bird strikes and foreign object debris being sucked into the engines, into the jet engines of modern passenger aircraft. So I just researched into ways to solve that, and I came up with a device. I did a lot of research with DCU in their fluid dynamics labs to look into how, you know, objects are getting sucked into the engines and what kind of ways you could stop that from happening. So that's what I ended up doing. Yeah, it was a really fun project, and it really got me a lot of knowledge and insight into engineering, and specifically aerospace engineering. So that's why I decided to go to do a specific degree in that, and I'm loving it at the moment. It's yeah, it's a really exciting degree, and I think the SciFest gave me a lot of gave me an edge over my my peers, so to speak, because I had so much advanced insight and knowledge into the area. So first year was quite a breeze for me, and the second year now, and it's getting challenging and exciting. So
that's excellent. And what kind of things are you studying in I mean, aerospace is a huge kind of sector. So are you looking at everything, or are you starting to specialize now?
Yeah, so first year was quite generic in terms of aerodynamics, structures, materials, electronics, and now we're looking more specifically into jet engines and supersonic flow, which I'm finding quite exciting and interesting. So yeah.
Great, good stuff, well done. So Ruth, let's come to you. You are in 6th year at Largy College in Clones in County Monaghan, and last year you won the Thea Award at the SciFest National Final and for your project on a microplastics filter, and that won gold in physics and engineering at the Hong Kong Global Youth Science and Technology Bowl in 2020, and you still have to do your leaving cert. So can you tell us a little bit more about the project on microplastics and the experience of the event that was through Hong Kong as well?
So my project is called the Microplastic Filter. So it's a small solution to a global problem. So it's microplastic filter. It removes the microplastics that kind of come off your clothes, and it removes them from the emanating water from your washing machine. So I researched and I found that washing machines were one of the bigger contributors to microplastics in our environment. So most of the plastics come off our clothes, so things like our football jerseys, our jumpers, our football socks, and I think per wash there's about 723,000 particles come off our clothes. So all of those particles are then going into our watercourses, so our rivers, our oceans, our lakes, and then they're kind of going into the bottom of our food chain. So like plankton would be the bottom, and they're eating it, and then slowly the fish are eating the plankton, and it's slowly going through the food chain where it will be in our bodies, which of course is not good. So what I've made this filter. So firstly, I made kind of a prototype for my DKIT SciFest. And what I made was, I made the filter out of like a Tupperware box, so like a lunch box, because I know like the water's not going to get out of that. And I had it working. So after DKIT for the national SciFest final, I made a little wooden kind of model just to kind of show the size, and then I went on and then I made my proper project. So I was making it out of like acrylic and stainless steel filters. So I was using like a laser cutter to cut all of this out, and I was like putting it through my washing machine. So what I did was I got 1,000 particles, so microplastic particles. So I did like 200 of different particles, and I put them through a wash, and then I connected the outlet pipe into like 20-liter kind of, like the basins for like your oil. So I then put on the wash 4 times, and I counted the amount of microplastics. So from that research, I found that heavier microplastics comes through faster, and the kind of smaller ones come through faster. So I then used my filter and I put it into the washing machine, and I let the plastics, I got the same amount of plastics, and I found that no microplastic particles came out into the 20 liters. So my project caught all of the microplastics. So I brought that to the national final and I got the Thea Award. And then from there, I was kind of like nominated as one of the Irish students to go on to the Global Youth and Science Technology Bowl. So it was online this year due to COVID, but I had to send in like a video just in case anything happened. But from there, I kind of knew what I was going to be speaking about. And then when I got there, I did a presentation on my project, which was a wonderful experience to have. And it really was fabulous to kind of be nominated and to be seen kind of as having a good enough project to go to this, because there was 19 different countries and there's a load of other projects, which are all wonderful projects. So I was delighted to receive the Gold Award.
Well, congratulations, Ruth, and well done. And I absolutely love that you started off with the Tupperware box using plastic to fight microplastic. I mean, that's brilliant. I know you graduated then onto the more, I suppose, you know, the laser cutting and all that. But it's wonderful that you started again, like Caolann, you know, such a simple idea, and then you built on that. I suppose maybe I can ask you all about, you know, how or when you developed that interest in science. And Ruth, you know, seeing how we're chatting with you, I mean, you know, you don't just wake up one day and start thinking about microplastics and how to filter them out of washing machines out of the blue. You know, is science and technology something that you have been kind of interested in for a while, or when did that start?
I think it was just really like a gradual thing as I was growing up. Because I live in like rural Ireland, it's kind of, I'm in the nature, so it's more about the environment and things like plastic, like climate change is such a big thing now. So that was kind of where my project was based off. So things like climate change, like what's kind of destroying our environment, let's say destroying our environment, and what's the problem? So how can we fix it? So I don't think it was just kind of a wake up one day and I realized this is what I want to do. So kind of gradually as I was growing up, I kind of had a real interest in science as I was young, how things worked, and especially like having older siblings that took part in competitions. So like my brother did SciFest, won national SciFest. So it's kind of gradually growing up, I was kind of just brought into all of this science. So when I kind of came into secondary school, I knew from like first year I did things like metalwork and woodwork and kind of the sciencey subjects because I liked how things worked. So when I kind of came into fourth year with SciFest, I think it was just more trying to make things and using my engineering skills that I'd used in the past 3 years and my construction skills. I kind of just knew what I wanted to make something. So that's where the climate change and my school subjects kind of helped me out there.
Brilliant. So it sounds like nobody batted an eyelid at home when you started dismantling the washing machine. It was probably like, oh, there's another project. Okay, good stuff. Great. And Omar, obviously aerospace engineering is something that you're really passionate about now. Have you always been interested in flight and dynamics, or you know, where did that come from?
Yeah, I think I don't ever remember a time when I wasn't interested in science and engineering in general. It's always been there, whether it was I don't know, space or electronics or computers. I genuinely can't think of a time where I wasn't interested. I don't know how it came, whether it was my parents or myself, but it really was always there. And it was only then, I suppose, in secondary school when I could actually, you know, apply my interest into projects or whatever. But yeah, I've just always been interested in it.
Oh, it's great. It's wonderful that you could sort of engage in that as well through SciFest. And Aaron, I mean, you did mention that obviously, you know, your granddad was the inspiration for your SciFest project. But were you going around sort of, you know, fixing problems with science and technology long before that, or how did that start?
I always like to tell an anecdote of how I got started. Was like my dad works in a medical device company in the west of Ireland, a multinational company that has a base in Ballina, where we're from. And I always remember going into the office as a 5 and 6 year old at like 7 o'clock at night and just, you know, taking stuff from the labs and like building little creations or drawing on the whiteboards and making, you know, machines that did all these crazy things. So like from a really young age, I guess I'm lucky that at home, you know, a love for science and technology and building new things and trying new things was really fostered for me. And then I guess when I started going through the levels of school, and especially coming into secondary school, I kind of really started to explore that, you know, on my own terms and on the things that I was interested in. Like, I guess really lucky to have been a participant in SciFest and also in competitions like F1 in Schools, where Omar's had success as well. You know, so really got the chance to develop my skills across a whole bunch of different projects. And I guess having learned all of those things, particularly let's say some of the skills I would have learned from F1 in Schools, that really helped me be in a great, I guess, right time, right place to have that SciFest project when I was in my Leaving Cert year.
Fantastic. Yes, the F1 in Schools initiative is wonderful as well. Absolutely wonderful. And Caolann, how about you? Where was your love of science? Can you recall a moment, or was it kind of a gradual dawning?
I suppose my family also would, particularly my dad's side, would be very, very kind of science and engineering focused. So I kind of would have grown up with my dad. If there was any kind of conference or, you know, public outreach activity as scientists, we would have always gone, and even to the likes of these kind of competitions, we would have gone and observed other students presenting their projects, and I was like, I want to be one of them, like that is my goal. But I suppose when I actually got around to doing it, I skipped TY, and I think in 5th year, like there's kind of, in my school anyway, there was no real kind of program, I suppose, for 5th years to do it. And I was, I suppose, in a girls' school, and I suppose at that age, especially I suppose in a girls' school, you're like, oh my god, I don't want to be that weird or like the little nerdy science one. But, and also I suppose what I was interested in wasn't actually the engineering field, which is what is generally quite successful in these competitions. So I was like, should I really do it? So I suppose I was doubting myself at the time, but once I actually got involved and I kind of realized how excited I was presenting the project, and the kind of, you know, that kind of interaction that you have with the public and other scientists, like that kind of opened my eyes to how social the career is. And I think at the time I was the first female to win SciFest, and I was like, damn, this is something to my name. But I think, yeah, definitely was such a confidence boost, but it was always there. I just kind of didn't have the confidence to pursue it. And I think I also didn't realize, I was kind of toying with the idea of medicine for a while as well, because like, that's more social. I'm interacting with people on a day-to-day basis. And I had it in my head that scientists were like locked up in a lab and you never saw they didn't speak to anybody. But yeah, once I kind of realized, I suppose, the collaboration that's involved in science, especially in biology, where, you know, you're always drawing on other people's work and always communicating at conferences and things, that just was a great eye-opener to have in SciFest, and that's really what kind of drew or pushed me to pursue what I always was probably meant to pursue. So yeah, I suppose it was there from an early age, but I kind of only realized it thanks to the likes of SciFest and things like that. So yeah.
Well, it's wonderful that you did pluck up the courage and kind of feel that push to enter SciFest, because you've certainly been a great role model, and I'm sure, you know, up and coming students will learn from your experience as well, you know, to go forward and find what interests you. I suppose a few of you have mentioned kind of coming from families where, you know, this was quite, you know, science and technology and engineering were kind of there. But I suppose outside your families, has there been anybody who has particularly inspired you? I mean, Caolann, you know, you were saying that you've met a lot of people through science and through SciFest. So is there anybody who stands out as being kind of a role model for you?
I think, yeah, definitely the likes of ISEF and meeting even other students. Like I remember being obviously I was in the biology kind of, what would I call it, the biology part of the exhibition, but I suppose I kept my title really simple. So it was like Hum Your Way to Better Health was my title, and I was beside people with paragraph long titles and about complicated things, and here's me like, oh god, I should have made it sound a bit fancier. But that was definitely, you know, I was meeting other peers and reaching out to obviously the judges. Like I remember even just talking to judges about what they were doing at the time as well, and kind of pulling on some of what they were doing and being like, oh, I could apply this to my project and things. And I think having that mindset at the time and realizing, as I said, the collaborative effort that science is. So that was definitely an eye-opener. And I think being in college now in the likes of Trinity, where obviously I'm looking to pursue an immunology career, and like Trinity is so well renowned for its immunology research, and particularly at the minute with the COVID facility, research facility that's now been generated. I think from the first day in first year, we had lectures that were talking about the research, and I was like, I want to be you, like in the future. I just thought they're all such inspirations. I suppose like even the likes of now with Luke O'Neill on the telly, and realizing that he's been teaching us for the past 4 years and his success. I think it's definitely like the likes of those really well known professors. That was a big inspiration at the time as well.
Absolutely, people like Kingston Mill, Cliona O'Farrelly, you know, sure, yeah, wonderful inspiration. Aaron, how about you? I mean, I know you mentioned your dad was very inspiring in terms of you know, being in the medical device industry, and you had that kind of exposure early on. But is there anybody else who's inspired you in your path?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're constantly, like Caolann saying, even as you participate in these competitions, the more people you meet, you know, like they all tend to inspire you, particularly your peer group. Like, for example, I know having even competed against Omar, for example, in the same, like Young Scientists, same SciFest, like learned a lot from his approach to things, and was inspired, I guess, by that to try harder myself and to try and see what I could achieve. So definitely learning a lot from the people that you're participating in these events with, and becoming friends with those people, and, you know, learning from their insights. And again, that's true of, you know, a lot of different competitions that I participated in. You see people that have maybe gone the year ahead of you, and you're trying to, I guess, emulate what they're doing or learn from what they've done. But I guess in my kind of career and since SciFest, I've been really inspired by some of the people I've been really lucky to work with. I'd say particularly Prof. Martin O'Halloran here in NUIG Galway that I've been really, really lucky to work under. I guess Martin is like almost you'd call like a scientist and technology visionary in a way. One of those people that just makes things happen and makes people around him produce things I think that they never thought they could, myself included. So I've been really lucky to have role models like that as well, and people that drive me and inspire me outside the family unit, in my career as well, to really push myself to the next level and to dream bigger, I guess, than I thought I could.
Brilliant. Thank you, Aaron. And Omar, how about you? Who have been your inspirations?
Yeah, I think really similar to the other two. I mean, it's all about the people you meet during these competitions, and I think we all notice a pattern of how we meet the same people over and over again, and whether it's SciFest or other competitions, and it is really motivating and encouraging when you see your peers over and over again. And if I was an influence to Aaron in second school, I think he's been a bit of an inspiration to me, what he's done after second school and college with his startups and everything like that. Another influence is definitely teachers. I mean, I don't know if teachers are watching this or not, but I'm sure they know, but they'll never understand how significant showing a bit of interest in your students is, because it just gives such a big boost in confidence and motivation to achieve things. Yeah, I think they're my biggest. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And I'm sure the teachers will be delighted to hear that, because they do work so hard, and it is genuinely so gratifying and satisfying to see students do so well and flourish. And Ruth, how about you? Who have been your inspirations outside your family, who've obviously been very inspiring themselves?
Well, I think it's kind of the people who are like surrounded me. So my friends in school, of course, they were kind of a big help. So they were really supportive. Of course, the teachers really supportive. Like my biology teacher, she was kind of my mentor. So she kind of pushed me to keep going and to make sure I'm on the right track, and telling me like, you can do this, you can definitely like try to do this, and you can go to SciFest. And of course, even I find the people like in my community, so like my town, when I was going to like when I was kind of online doing the Global Youth and Science Technology Bowl, I noticed like them on Facebook supporting me and telling me, oh, like, this is fantastic and we wish you well. So I think it's kind of just your kind of close kind of community of people just supporting me. So I think it's them who kind of inspire me just to kind of keep going with STEM, and I hopefully go into college and do something along the lines of STEM.
It's so encouraging to hear you all talk about having that kind of supportive network and creating that network of your peers, and also through your teachers as well. I mean, I know I was a scientist a long time ago, back in the 1990s, would you believe? And, I know how important that network is for collaboration, and also for the kind of support that you need, because not every day in science is easy. Okay, there are some days when things maybe aren't working on your project, or you have to really work hard to figure out a problem. So I suppose if I could ask each of you if you can recall, what were the challenges that you faced when you were doing your SciFest project? Maybe Ruth, how about you doing the microplastics? What were the difficulties that you had to overcome in that?
Well, I know a big difficulty was like during fourth years when I started the project. So during fourth year is probably when you do like most of your modules, and you kind of take part in extracurricular activities. So I know during fourth year I was doing things like debates, YSI. So it's kind of just trying to balance everything. And then going into fifth year, it was just schoolwork. It was trying to balance just kind of doing the project outside school, maybe sometimes in school, making sure not to miss classes, and making sure the teachers are like, they're okay with your work and things like that. But of course, the microplastic is being able to actually make the thing. So getting all of the things you need, so like the plastic, the metals, looking for it online, trying to find, like, I know I had to go up to Dublin to places to start looking online to find places to find all these metals, and trying to find the right metal, the right thickness. I think those were all the challenges, just making sure you had the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine when you have so many components coming together into something that probably looks relatively simple when you put it all together, but the different components that you need because you're making something new. Fantastic. Sounds like you overcame those, and it sounds like you balance things pretty well as well between the various parts of schoolwork and SciFest and beyond that as well. Omar, how about you? I mean, looking back at your SciFest project, what were the kinds of challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Well, the biggest one, I mean, is quite specific to me, but kind of probably about a month to 3 weeks before the final, my laptop, which I had all my work on, just cut out and died, and I pretty much lost everything. So just a tip for everyone watching, you know, if you're doing a project, especially if it has a lot of kind of CAD and simulation data, please back it all up. And then apart from that, I think timing was a bit of an issue. Just it was just a big project, you know, that I was doing. It was an ambitious project, you know. I got it all done in the end, but it meant late nights, lack of sleep, and then kind of the poster and the project booked was slightly rushed towards the end. So even though it was all done in the end, I suppose it could have been done more comfortable if I'd planned a bit earlier, started a bit earlier, something like that. So that's always a good bit of advice.
Well, that's great advice, as is the backing up, because I think in life in general, you know, back up your files is always a good idea, and and particularly if you're doing a project where time is an issue as well. You know, you're heading towards a deadline. You definitely don't want your laptop, you know, disappearing on you. Definitely not. Aaron, how about you? I mean, when you were doing the shaving arm project, what kind of challenges did you face and overcome?
I think there's so many challenges, to be honest. You know, I think one of the things to be aware of, I guess, when you're competing in these competitions is that you only see everyone else's finished product and you don't see all of the challenges that they had. And so it looks like everyone else, everything is rosy in the garden for them, and here you are struggling to put something together. But I think you need to kind of realize that everyone's in your shoes and everyone has those struggles. Like, the day that, you know, I was so lucky to be named winner in SciFest in 2017, but literally the night before, my prototype wasn't working and was breaking, and I was up till about 2 a.m. trying to fix it. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, I had ordered a taxi to get to, because I was in South Dublin and I needed to get up to Marino for the actual event itself. And then my taxi cancelled and I couldn't get another taxi, and I was half an hour late, and I was like absolutely tearing my hair out because I couldn't get across Dublin to get to the final. And I was like, this is it, like I've absolutely screwed it, like it's over, there's no way. So like there's so many things that go wrong, and that was only, you know, a 12-hour snapshot of before the final. For the preceding 9 months, you know, there's a lot more 12 hours than that, where things went wrong. So yeah, I think, you know, it's really important for everyone to recognize that there are challenges along the way in every project, and there are times when you will feel like this is absolutely impossible, and you know, you'll question why you're doing it. And there'll also be times where you think, wow, like this is a really significant piece of work that I've done. I'm really proud of myself. I think I've done something really worth doing here. And over time, hopefully you'll average it out, where those moments are the ones that dominate. And you've got to, I guess, focus on that when you're experiencing those challenges. I think a really nice point that we kind of touched on coming into this is that peer network. I think if I could go back, the only thing I would do differently is to invest even more in getting to know people and establishing that peer network, because now it's something I rely on so heavily in my career. You know, I text people all the time if I have problems with stuff, people that I've met at startup conferences, or, you know, doctors that I've met while doing customer discovery stuff. You know, I'll reach out all the time for support and advice. And I only wish I started doing that sooner, because it's been such a benefit for me in overcoming challenges.
Absolutely, that's a great piece of advice, Aaron. And I like your point as well about the fact that everybody is showing their final project, which is the best version, you know, and you don't see all the challenges that came before, like the laptops that suddenly broke down, or the taxi that didn't come, and all that kind of stuff. It's a little like social media, isn't it? You know, everybody has their best out in social media, but you don't see the chaos in the background. Yeah. So, and Caolann, how about you? What were the challenges that you faced when you were doing your work back in, I suppose, 2015, 2016?
I suppose it was definitely an equipment issue that I had. So obviously I said I used the peak flow meter, which was a very simplistic, I suppose, tool. I'm reading a lot of papers, they were using so much fancier equipment, and it kind of made me feel like what I was doing was probably a little too simplistic and maybe not quite relevant enough. And so obviously I did reach out and try to see what equipment would be available to me. There is diagnostic equipment that they use in hospitals and things that could have been of use, but on the scale that I had kind of planned out my sample sizes and things, and it wouldn't have necessarily worked, I suppose, using that equipment to test the broad sample of people that I did have. So the lesson that I learned from that was so valuable, I suppose, now in the projects that I'm doing at the minute, like about having to use the resources that are available to you, which may be due to funding or just the actual establishment that you're working in. You have to use what's available to you, and experimental design around that tool is key, because you can get so much from that very simplistic tool and still answer quite a lot of scientific questions. So that was such an eye-opener at the time, because I was devastated at the fact that I wouldn't have access to this equipment, which is fair, because obviously I didn't have much training, and I would have had to been supervised by people who were actually up to skill for those machines. So definitely such a learning curve, that no matter what tools are available to you, you can still implement them to answer quite a lot of important scientific questions. And based on the conclusions that I made, they were still important. And I think going back, kind of follow-on studies would obviously be to use those fancy machines, but actually they were still, the tools that I did have available were still quite important, and I utilised them to my advantage. So that's definitely key point as well, just for people to bear in mind, that it doesn't matter kind of how complex the machines you're working with are, you can use very simple tools to also answer scientific questions.
Well, I think everything from the title to everything about your project, simplicity was at its core, wasn't it? But simplicity mixed with good science is a wonderful formula for success, as you've shown. I suppose while we're with you, Caolann, you did go on to study science at Trinity, and you have this strong interest in immunology. Would you have any advice for students who are still maybe at secondary school and who are thinking about studying STEM in the future?
Yeah, so I think definitely from like a confidence point of view, you have to get out there. Like, and this is definitely a message I would even tell my younger self, to get involved in any outreach activity that's out there from secondary school, even before. Just reaching out and realizing how exciting this community is, and that's definitely one key point. And I think particularly if biology is your interest, which I feel, I don't know, maybe with my skill, but biology was definitely really what people were passionate about, but people would have been kind of shied away from ever researching it, because once you leave secondary school or you Google something, it sends you through to all these really complicated papers that you just can't get your head around or understand really in secondary school. So I definitely think which is something I wasn't even aware of, the fact that scientific reviews can actually be so simplified. And if only I knew about those tools when I was in secondary school, that it's okay to reach out to actual, Google an article. And some of them are really, really simplified and can actually get you up to date on the new research that's coming out, and also get you more excited about how rapid this whole field of research is becoming. So I think definitely don't shy away from, I suppose, articles and research facilities and things that are giving you opportunities, and also opening your eyes to research that's going on at the minute, because there are simplified versions, and I think that has to be told. I don't think any of my teachers would have ever even thought to send us along the review line, because yeah, they are quite daunting, but as I said, they actually can be quite simplified. And if only I'd known that, I think I would have even applied more of my knowledge for my SciFest project and things, kind of more firm conclusions maybe, if I'd known. But this is it. I think it's all just a learning game. But from secondary school, definitely don't shy away from the research that's currently going on, and not sticking to the books. Try and open your mind to what's going on outside of school as well, I think.
Absolutely, that's a great point about reviews, actually, and it's something that I would have lent on a lot as an undergraduate, and indeed a PhD student as well. And that if you need to get to grips with an area, going to a review, which is an article that somebody has written that kind of tells you what's the current thinking in a field, or what's changing about the thinking in a field, and it's a really, really handy way to. They can still be quite complicated to read, but they're certainly a lot easier to read than the very deep research. You have to know about what's going on around it. The review tells you what's going on around it, so that's a really good tip. I suppose to wrap up, maybe if I could ask each of you, I mean, suppose money were absolutely no object and you could just invent anything you wanted to, what would that be? Caolann, what would you invent?
I think I'm the only non-inventor here, so I'm going to have to go the non-technology route. But I would definitely say a generic vaccine, which I'm sure we can all agree on that front. So a vaccine that is against all pathogens, because I'm a full believer that pathogens are our greatest risk, be they viruses or bacteria or anything like that. So and I'm hopeful that this is that this is the only pandemic we ever see in our lifetime, but it mightn't be. And I think a generic vaccine would be incredible. So let's, fingers crossed. That's so
you can invent that there, Caolann. Aaron, how about you? If I just handed you a blank check, what would you go off and invent?
It's really hard to know, I guess. Like there's so many different needs that could be solved around the world. So I guess it's hard to think of like one physical thing that you would provide to everybody. But I think I'm actually going to latch on to Caolann's point there about kind of access to research and you know, getting access to all the latest information. I think something that we really need to work on as a society in general is, you know, taking all of this really advanced research and all of the knowledge that we have in the world and democratizing access to that, and making sure that everybody has an insight into science and everybody has an insight into what's going on, and so that, you know, people who maybe aren't in the privileged position that we're in, so like myself, Caolann, Omar, and university, we probably have access to a whole bunch of open access journal platforms. Not everybody has that. We wouldn't have had it when we were in school, you know, so I think democratizing that access to research and making sure that everyone in the world, no matter what their circumstances are, can benefit from that and then can leverage it to create new things. I think that's when we'll really accelerate growth across so many different industries, is when, you know, the world's research is free and available for everybody to take part in and to benefit from. So I think, I guess if you gave me a blank check, I'd try and make research free for everybody.
That's great. That's a very fundamental change that could open up so much more for people and for societies. That's wonderful. Omar, how about you? What would you invent?
I'm currently working on quite an early stage startup with some close friends, and we're developing entertainment technology for blind people. So even though I've no personal connection to blind people, it's an area that I've become really passionate about and interested in. So if I had a blank check, I'd either work on the product we're working on now or just curing blindness in general, though that's a bit more far-fetched, but that's definitely an area I'm interested in currently.
Very good. Well, they're both noble aims, so well done. And Ruth, how about you? What would be your kind of dream invention if money were no object?
Well, it's a very difficult one. Like, I agree with like everybody, they all sound fantastic, but I'd probably go something along the lines of, because my project's based on microplastics and kind of things like climate change, so kind of more money towards like research for climate change, how to like change it. So more money towards maybe like the microplastic filter, so maybe like going towards even putting that inside washing machines, like having it inside. So that means when you buy a washing machine, you won't have to buy this with it, it'll automatically be in it. So it'll hopefully, it would kind of reduce the amount of plastic going in. It might reduce maybe like climate change, it might bring certain things down. So I think that maybe putting money towards like research into climate change, like how do we help this, maybe even like money into like third world countries, like they don't have things like microplastic filters and things like that, and kind of helping out there. So that's probably what I would do.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much to all of you. I have to say it's been such an inspiring conversation with you and to hear your insights, and congratulations on all your success. So Caolann, Aaron, Omar and Ruth, thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.